Hello students, in this video we are going to discuss about radius of gyration. It is a term which is used in rotational motion. Let's have a description about this term. Suppose you have a body which is a kind of rotating body. Okay, so if this body is a rotating body, it will have moment of inertia. Moment of inertia comes into picture when the body is in rotational motion. You have kinetic energy of rotation. Similarly, you have moment of inertia. Moment of inertia is a quantity which plays the same role in rotational motion as the mass plays in linear motion. I already told you that mass plays a very major role in linear motion because it's the mass only which decides how much force you would need to apply to make the object move. Like if this object is more massive, I would have to apply more force to it so that it can move. If this object is less massive, then I would have to apply lesser force to make it move. So basically, mass is something which measures the inertia of the body in linear motion. Like it tells you how much efforts are required from your side to either make the object move or to stop the body, right? So same way we have moment of inertia, which describes the rotational inertia, like what all you need to have to make the body rotate. Okay, so suppose right now, right here, you have a body, okay, an object which is comprising of several particles where each particle has the mass m. Okay, each particle has the mass m, and this is the axis of rotation. Like the body is rotating like this. Okay, so if you discuss the distances of these masses from the axis of rotation, they are going to be r1, r2, r3 and so on. So what is radius of gyration? Basically, if you calculate the moment of inertia of this rotating body, okay, if you calculate the moment of inertia of this rotating body, then you need to see that if this body contains some point P where the whole mass of the body can supposed to be concentrated, which is the center of mass. So if you measure the distance from the axis to the center of mass such that the whole body's moment of inertia and the moment of inertia of this point, they are equal, then this distance will be known as radius of gyration. I repeat the concept. Basically, if the if the entire mass of the body is supposed to be concentrated at some point and the moment of inertia of that only point comes out to be equal to the moment of inertia of the whole body taken together, then the distance from the axis to that point, which is the center of mass, that will be known as radius of gyration. So let us calculate the moment of inertia of all the particles which are there. That will be mr1 square, mr2 square plus mr3 square and so on up to mrn square. So this is the moment of inertia of all the particles of the body, right? Take m common and we assume that all the particles are having identical sizes. So I have just taken m over here. So when you take m common, you're going to get r1 square, r2 square and so on up to rn square. Fine. After that, just multiply and divide by n. So there are n number of particles and each particle has mass small m. So when you multiply it, what are you going to get? You're going to get capital M, which is the total mass of the body. You're going to get capital M, which is the total mass of the body. Like this. n is the number of particles and mass of one particle is small m. So total mass is capital M. That's what I have written over here. And the other stuff remains as it is. After that, this one point, which is the center of mass, or you can say that the whole mass of the body can supposed to be concentrated over here. Just calculate moment of inertia of this only point. So that will come out as m, capital M, into moment of inertia is mass into distance square. And mark my words, this distance is nothing but the distance from the axis of rotation, right? So this will be k square, where k is the distance of the axis, distance from the axis of rotation, right? And since the condition demands these two moment of inertia are equal, because this is the definition of radius of gyration. So this moment of inertia is equal to this one. So I is equal to I dash. When you put both of them equal, you can easily find out the value of radius of gyration. So radius of gyration is that distance of that point, is a distance of that point from the axis such that the moment of inertia calculated around that only point is equal to the moment of inertia of the entire body, right? So that's radius of gyration. Next, we are going to discuss torque and moment of inertia. Like we are going to establish a relationship between torque and moment of inertia. Suppose once again you have a body which is rotating, right? It has several masses in it, m1, m2, m3, which are situated at r1, r2, r3 distances from the axis of rotation. Now, if you apply the torque on this body, the body will be rotating with some angular acceleration alpha, right? So angular acceleration is alpha. And these particles which are rotating, they are rotating with their accelerations, right? Angular acceleration is common, but linear acceleration will be different. So let's have a look at the linear accelerations of these particles. A1 equals to r1 alpha, a2 equals to r2 alpha, because this is the relationship between linear acceleration and angular acceleration. Now, if you talk about the amount of force which is acting on all these particles, you will have F1, F2, F3, so on up to Fn. So F1 will be M1A1, M1 as it is. In place of A1, you have R1 alpha, F2, M2A2, M2 as it is. In place of A2, you can put R2 alpha. So all these are the amounts of forces which are acting on individual particles, right? So when you calculate the overall torque on the body, we know that torque is equal to Rf sine theta. So R cross F, in other words. If you only consider the magnitude, ignoring the angle between R and F, you're going to have R1 cross F1, the torque acting on the first particle, R2 cross F2, the torque acting on second particle, Rn cross Fn, torque acting on nth particle. Just add all of them, right? And after that, in place of F1, F2, F3, just put these values that you've calculated. Once you calculate it, you are going to find out that M1 will be existing as it is. You will have R1 square, R2 square, Rn square, and alpha is occurring in every term. Alpha will be occurring in every term. Just take alpha common and what you will be left with? This stuff. And this stuff is nothing but moment of inertia again. So yes, I am going to put I over here where I is moment of inertia. So torque will be equal to I alpha vector. Because of course we have to make it a vectorial relation, right? Moment of inertia is not a vector quantity. I repeat, moment of inertia is not a vector quantity. It's a scalar quantity, right? So tau is equal to I alpha. It's a relationship between torque and moment of inertia. But don't you think that this relation resembles force is equal to mass into acceleration, which was the relation in linear motion? Force, in place of force, you have torque in rotational motion. In place of mass in linear motion, you have moment of inertia in rotational motion. In place of linear acceleration, you have angular acceleration. So yes, this relation is the rotational analog of this relation, right? So this was the relationship between torque and moment of inertia.